वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय गोपी जन वल्लभा गिरिवरधारी यशोदनंदन व्रज जन रंजना यमुना तीरा वनचारी यमुना तीरा वनचारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय राधा माधवा कुंज विहारी जय कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम कृष्ण बलराम जय कृष्ण बलराम जय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय गौरनिताय जय गौरनिताय जय जय प्रभुपाद 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 Dhamishapad Paramansa Parivrajakatarya Ashtotara Satashri Srimad Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Dhamishapad Paramansa Parivrajakatarya Ashtotara Satashri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Maharaj Ki Jai Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai Prem Se Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद की जय ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्भागवतम की जय श्री श्री कृष्ण बलराम की जय श्री श्री गौर निताय की जय हरे कृष्ण महामंत्र की जय जगत गुरु श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। Reading from Srimad-Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 22, Text number 33. Sa bharyaha sa prajaha kaman sabharyaha saprajaha kaman sabharyaha saprajaha kaman bubhuje anya avirodhataha bubhuje anya virodhataha bubhuje anya virodhataha Sangiyamana Sat Kirtihi Sangiyamana Sat Kirtihi Sangiyamana Sat Kirtihi Sa Stribhihi Sura Gayakaihi सस्त्रीभिः सुरगायकैः सस्त्रीभिः सुरगायकैः प्रति ऊषेषु अनुबद्धेन प्रत्यूषेष्वनुबद्धेन प्रत्यूषेष्वनुबद्धेन हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः सभार्यः सप्रजः कामान् बुभुजे अन्या विरोधतः संगीयमानसत्कीर्तिः सस्त्रीभिः सुरगायकैः प्रत्यूषेष्वनुबद्धेन हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः सभार्यः सप्रजः कामान् बुभुजे अन्या विरोधतः संगीयमानसत्कीर्तिः सस्त्रीभिः सुरगायकैः प्रत्यूषेष्वनुबद्धेन हृदा शृण्वन् हरेः कथाः Sabharyah, along with his wife, Saprajah, along with his subjects, Kaman, the necessities of life, Bubhuje, he enjoyed, Anya, from others, Avirodhataha, without disturbance, Sangiyamana, being praised, Satkirtihi, reputation for pious activities, Sastribihi, along with their wives, Suragayakaihi, by celestial musicians, Prati Usheshu, at every dawn, Anubadhena, being attached, Hrida, with the heart, Shrinvan, listening to, Harehe, of Lord Hari, Kathaha, the topics. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor, and early in the morning, every day, he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart. Kindly repeat. Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed life with his wife and subjects and fulfilled his desires without being disturbed by unwanted principles contrary to the process of religion. Celestial musicians and their wives sang in chorus about the pure reputation of the emperor, and early in the morning, every day, he used to listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with a loving heart. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Human society is actually meant for realization of perfection in Krishna consciousness. There is no restriction against living with a wife and children, but life should be so conducted that one may not go against the principles of religion, economic development, regulated sense enjoyment, and ultimately liberation from material existence. The Vedic principles are designed in such a way that the conditioned souls who have come to this material existence may be guided in fulfilling their material desires and at the same time be liberated and go back to Godhead, back home. It is understood that Emperor Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed his household life by following these principles. It is stated here that early in the morning there were musicians who used to sing with musical instruments about the glories of the Lord, and the emperor with his family personally used to hear about the pastimes of the Supreme Person. This custom is still prevalent in India in some of the royal families and temples. Professional musicians sing with shehnais, and the sleeping members of the house gradually get up from their beds in a pleasing atmosphere. During bedtime also, the singers sing songs in relationship with the pastimes of the Lord with shehnai accompaniment, and the householders gradually fall asleep remembering the glories of the Lord. In every house, in addition to the singing program, there is an arrangement for Bhagavatam lectures in the evening. Family members sit down, hold Hare Krishna Kirtan, hear narrations from Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita, and enjoy music before going to bed. The atmosphere created by this Sankirtana movement lives in their hearts, and while sleeping, they also dream of the singing and glorification of the Lord. In such a way, perfection of Krishna consciousness can be attained. This practice is very old, as learned from this verse of Srimad-Bhagavatam. Millions of years ago, Swayambhuva Manu used to avail himself of this opportunity to live householder life in the peace and prosperity of a Krishna-conscious atmosphere. As far as temples are concerned, in each and every royal palace or rich man's house, inevitably there is a nice temple, and the members of the household rise early in the morning and go to the temple to see the Mangalaratrika ceremony. The Mangalaratrika ceremony is the first worship of the morning. In the Aratrika ceremony, a light is offered in circles before the deities, as are a conch shell and flowers and a fan. The Lord is supposed to rise early in the morning and take some light refreshment and give audience to the devotees. The devotees then go back to the house or sing the glories of the Lord in the temple. The early morning ceremony still takes place in Indian temples and palaces. Temples are meant for the assembly of the general public. Temples within palaces are especially for the royal families. But in many of these palace temples, the public is also allowed to visit. The temple of the king of Jaipur is situated within the palace, but the public is allowed to assemble. If one goes there, he will see that the temple is always crowded with at least 500 devotees. After the Mangalaratrika ceremony, they sit down together and sing the glories of the Lord with musical instruments and thus enjoy life. Temple worship by the royal family is also mentioned in the Bhagavad-gita, where it is stated that those who fail to achieve success in the Bhakti Yoga principles within one life are given a chance to take birth in the next life in a family of rich men or in a royal family or family of learned brahmanas or devotees. If one gets the opportunity to take birth in these families, he can achieve the facilities of a Krishna conscious atmosphere without difficulty. A child born in that Krishna conscious atmosphere, a child born in that Krishna atmosphere is sure to develop Krishna consciousness. The perfection which he failed to attain in his last life is again offered in this life, and he can make himself perfect without fail. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport. Om Ajnanatimirandhasya Jnananjanasalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Presthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Mokam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Shri Gurum Deenataranam. In the previous verses, we have seen how King Swayambhuva Manu, Emperor Swayambhuva Manu, when he ruled over his kingdom, Brahmavarta, being in the capital city, Barhishmati, his rule was characterized by an absence of the threefold miseries of material existence. That means the Emperor Swayambhuva Manu's life was full of happiness. And not only that, it is said here what kind of rule he was able to enjoy. In today's world, we see many countries there is democracy, few countries are still under dictatorship. Wherever the countries are in dictatorship, there is one person who is ruling with an iron hand, and nobody can oppose. Anybody who opposes, their voice is muzzled, people are put behind bars, and so out of fear, all the citizens keep quiet. Nobody externally opposes. But still, if somebody manages to escape to some other country, then they will start criticizing, telling about the kind of atrocities being conducted there, etc. And you look at democracy, there is freedom of speech. Everybody can express his personal views. And people elect their own representatives. And although people elect their representatives, after the person comes to power, there will be many people who will criticize that person. Whether it is democracy, whether it is autocracy, whatever the system of ruling is there will always be people who will oppose the rulers. This is a common thing. Now in the case of Swayambhuva Manu, he was an emperor. He was a king. He was ruling over the entire earth planet. But still, Anya Avirodhataha, his rule was such that nobody had any reason to oppose his ruling. So two characteristics of the ruling of the kingdom by Emperor Swayambhuva Manu. One was there was no influence of the three modes of the three types of miseries inflicted upon living entities by material nature: Adhyatmika Klesha, Adhibhautika Klesha, Adhidaivika Klesha. None of these three different types of material miseries had any influence. And secondly, Swayambhuva Manu enjoyed unopposed rulership. It is not that people he had to by force, by the use of fear, by persecuting people who were opposed him, he kept everyone quiet. That was not the way. He ruled over the citizens exactly like a father takes care of the children. And when the citizens also saw how loving Swayambhuva Manu was, nobody felt like opposing him. So he won over his citizens by ruling over with love and affection, as well as there was one more fundamental reason, which was the root cause of Swayambhuva Manu enjoying such opulence of being able to rule his kingdom without opposition and without the influence of the three types of material miseries. What was that? That is being described in this today's verse. His practice, daily practice, involved Prati Usheshu. So every Usha means dawn. Prati Usheshu, every dawn, he would wake up. How would he wake up? Generally, people in this world, as soon as they wake up, they need one bed coffee or bed tea, and along with that, the newspaper, or they switch on the TV and catch up with the latest news. What's happening in the world? While I was asleep, what went on in the world? That's how people start their day. But so that propensity is there to hear about something as soon as we wake up. In the case of Swayambhuva Manu, he did not wake up hearing about news. What happened in my kingdom? Who did what? What was the latest problem? Any good news? No. The morning, early morning, at the time of dawn, as soon as before the sun would rise, he would wake up. And he would wake up how? Anubaddena Hrida Hareha Katha Shrinvan. He would wake up with great love and affection, hearing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. Hareha Kathaha, Harikatha. He would hear about the pastimes of Lord Krishna, he would hear the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and he would wake up in the morning. Prabhupada explains that this practice is there since the beginning of creation. Swayambhuva Manu was the first Manu. At the beginning of creation itself, this system was implemented, that especially the kings, not only common people, especially the kings would rise early in the morning hearing the pastimes of Krishna, and in the night when they would go to bed, they would go to bed after hearing the pastimes of Krishna. And in between, sandwiched in between, is a time during which they carry out their normal, regular duties. So this was a sandwich program that the kings used to follow. All the common people were also expected to follow this in the footsteps of the king. The system of hearing the pastimes of Krishna from the Srimad-Bhagavatam, and also hearing about Krishna's instructions from the Bhagavad-gita, morning and evening, is a practice which is very, very beneficial for the living entity in developing love of Krishna and going back to Godhead. So actually, if we see, the Srimad-Bhagavatam itself, in the beginning itself, it states, Shrinvatam Sukataha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtanaha Hridyantasto Yabudrani Vidunoti Suhrit Satam. Suhrit, Satam Suhrit. Krishna is the dearmost friend. He is the Suhrit, dearmost friend of Satam, of all the devotees. And he is seated in the heart of each and every devotee, as well as every living entity. So that Krishna, who is the dearmost friend of the devotees, what he does, Shinvatam Sukata Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana, when the devotee engages in hearing about Krishna from the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gita every day, he, being within the heart, Krishna cleanses the heart of the devotee of all the contamination of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha and Matsarya, and he removes the false conception of the living entity that I am the body. So, simply by hearing the pastimes of Krishna, simply by hearing the holy name of Krishna, without doing anything else, we can become free from the bodily concept of life, and we can become free from the influence of the three modes of material nature, which is manifested in the heart in the form of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Mada, Moha and Matsarya. Now, how is this wonderful effect achieved? Simply by hearing about the pastimes of Krishna or by chanting his holy name. Because the influence of the three modes of material nature are very deep rooted within the heart of the living entity. Our heart is very strongly captured by lust, greed, anger, so on and so forth. Even great rishis and sages engaged in meditation, engaged in deep study of Vedanta, and such great personalities, having renounced the material world, are also still under the clutches of Kama, Krodha, Lobha, etc. It's not easy to get out of the clutches. And here, without any effort, simply by hearing the pastimes of Krishna, simply by chanting Krishna's holy name, we are becoming free of it. Everyone in this world is firmly under the conception that I am this body. Everyone is firmly convinced I am this body. And to come out of that bodily concept of life, it requires great gymnastics to be performed. One has to engage in Ashtanga Yoga, or one has to engage in deep philosophical study of the Vedas and the Upanishads. Even after all that intellectual and physical gymnastics, one may still not easily get over this conviction that I am this body. Simply by hearing Srimad-Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita and by chanting Krishna's holy name, we get freed from the bodily concept of life. So how is this possible? So actually we have to understand that the pastimes of Krishna, which are enumerated in the Srimad-Bhagavatam, they are all actually eternal pastimes of Krishna, especially what is described in the 10th canto of the Srimad-Bhagavatam. So, actually these pastimes of Krishna which are mentioned in the Bhagavatam are enacted by Krishna and his personal confidential devotees in Goloka Vrindavan. So, in the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan, which constitutes of Vrajadhama and Goloka and Mathura Dhama and Dwarka Dhama, Krishna constantly is carrying out the very same pastimes which he demonstrated when Krishna was personally present 5,000 years ago on this planet. Now, why does Krishna carry out these activities? Why does Krishna, the Supreme Lord, have to engage in activities? We living entities, conditioned souls within this material world, we have a necessity to perform action. Why? Because as a matter of duty, as a matter of dharma, we have certain duties to be performed. Now, Krishna says very clearly in the Bhagavad-gita that he has no activity to perform, he has no duties to perform, nor is there something for him to be gained because of which he has to engage in action. So, for Krishna, there is nothing to be achieved, there is no duty for him to perform, then why does he engage in activity? That in the Purushabodhini Upanishad, it is stated, Eko Devo Nitya Leela Anurakto Hridi Vyapi Bhakta Hridi Vyapi Hridyantaratma. So it is said in the Upanishad that Eko Devaha, that Ekaha Deva, that one supreme personality of Godhead. God cannot be many. There cannot be competition for the post of God. Then he is no more God. God means only one person, who is the supreme, who has no equal and there is nobody above him. As Lord Krishna himself says in the Bhagavad-gita, that there is nobody equal to him, there is nobody above him. Na tat samastabidikascha drishyate, Upanishads also state. So that Asamaurdhva, Lord, who has no equal and nobody above him, that supreme personality of Godhead is Krishna. So that Ekaha Devaha, that one supreme personality of Godhead, Krishna, Nitya Leela Anuraktaha, he is constantly engaged in various pastimes. Why? Bhakta Vyapi Hridyantaratma. Because he is seated as Paramatma in all the living entities' hearts, including that of his devotees, and he engages in those pastimes for enjoying his relationship with his devotees. So, Krishna's execution of his pastimes in Goloka Vrindavan, a trailer of which is shown when Krishna descends on this planet, is carried out by Krishna for the sake of enjoying his relationship with his devotees. The devotees in Shantarasa, Dasarasa, Sakyarasa, Vatsalarasa, Madhurarasa, there are innumerable, infinite devotees in the spiritual world with whom Krishna engages in wonderful leelas, pastimes, for the sake of enjoying that relationship. In a relationship between two people, if there is no activity, then there is no meaning to that relationship, there is no happiness in that relationship. When there is activity in the relationship between two individuals, then there is happiness arising out of that relationship. Therefore, Krishna, in order to enjoy his relationship with the devotees, he engages in wonderful pastimes with his devotees. From this, what we can understand is that the purpose of Krishna performing pastimes is simple. It is for enjoying with his devotees. Now, not only pastimes, what about the holy name of Krishna? Why God should have a holy name? Why God should have a name at all? That is because the Lord, the Supreme Lord, although there is no need for a designation for him, still he has innumerable transcendental holy names by chanting which the devotees of Krishna, they experience great bliss. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it is stated that it is explained how the greatest happiness of chanting Krishna's holy names is experienced by Radharani, who is the topmost devotee. So the pinnacle of happiness is experienced in chanting Krishna's names by Radharani. In the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, it states that Rodana Bindu Maranda Syendi. The Rodana means crying. Rodana Bindu means the drops of tears. Rodana Bindu Maranda Syendi. Maranda means the nectar which comes out of the flowers. Maranda Syendi. So the outpouring of the tears in the eyes of Radharani is compared to the nectar flowing from the flowers. Rodana Bindu Maranda Syendi. The one devotee is talking to Krishna and is explaining to Krishna, Rodana Bindu Maranda Syendi Drig Indivaradya Govinda. Oh Govinda, out of the Drig Indivara. Indivara means a blue lotus. Drig means the eyes. So from the lotus eyes of Radharani, tears are flowing like nectar flowing from the flowers. Why are tears coming out of Radharani's eyes? Tava madura swara kanthi namani gayati bala. That this Bala, this Gopi, who is none other than Radhika, Srimati Radharani, she, Madhura Swarakanthi, with a sweet voice, Tava Namani Gayati, she is singing your holy names. And when she is singing your holy names, O Govinda, Krishna, what is happening is, unable to, without control, tears are constantly flowing from her eyes. Why tears have to flow from Radharani's eyes when she chants Krishna's holy names? Because Krishna's holy names are imbued with such intense, condensed sweetness that when she chants Krishna's holy name, her heart becomes overwhelmed by that sweetness and she is not able to control the tears of ecstasy which flow from her eyes. We have to understand that in this material world, when we chant anybody's names, we don't experience any kind of happiness. This kind of happiness which Radharani was experienced, nobody can experience by chanting anybody's names in the material world. Why? Because in this material world, all the names are meant to designate the bodies of the living entities. And the body, the nature of the body of a living entity is what? It is Nashvara, it is temporary, and it is Nirananda, it has no Ananda filled inside it. It has no Chit, and it has no existence, no Sat, no Chit, and Nirananda. It does not have any bliss in it. Therefore, the names which describe these bodies also do not have any of these characteristics. Whereas, Krishna, because Krishna's form is composed of Sat, Chit and Ananda, therefore, the name which denotes Krishna also is endowed with the same characteristics of Sat, Chit and Ananda. Therefore, Krishna's holy names, because Krishna is Sat, Krishna is eternal, Krishna's holy name is also eternal. Because Krishna is filled with Chit, knowledge, therefore, anybody who chants Krishna's holy name, he will immediately get access to transcendental eternal knowledge. Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha. So Krishna's holy name is full of consciousness because Krishna's form is also full of consciousness. So when we chant Krishna's holy name, on a preliminary scale, if somebody chants Krishna's holy name, then what happens? He comes in touch with the Sat and Chit aspects of Krishna and Krishna's holy name. And that is why it is said, Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Shinvatam Swakata Punya Shravana Kirtanaha, Hridyantasto Yabadrani Vidunoti Surutsatam. The first thing that happens is, we come out of the bodily concept of life. The Sat aspect of Krishna's holy name is acting. And then what happens is, we come to understand, I am not the body, I am spirit, soul, I am an eternal servant of Krishna. So then, the Chit aspect of the holy name we come in touch with. Now when it comes to the Ananda aspect, now for us to experience that Ananda aspect of the holy name, it requires a special arrangement. When Radharani chants the holy name of Krishna, the kind of ecstasy she experiences is something which nobody else can experience. All the Vrajavasis, when they chant Krishna's holy name, the kind of ecstasy that they experience cannot be experienced by devotees on any other Vaikuntha planets. Therefore, we have to understand that the holy name of Krishna is actually manifested, just like Krishna manifests his Leelas for the sake of enjoyment with his devotees. Krishna's holy names are also manifest so that his devotees can chant them and experience great bliss. Now, although Krishna's holy names and Krishna's activities are meant for the enjoyment by his pure devotees in Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna very mercifully manifests them even in this material world. Why? So that the conditioned souls can take advantage of them and go back to garden. That is the secondary reason for Krishna manifesting his pastimes and his holy names in this material world. Originally, Krishna's holy names and pastimes are meant for giving happiness. Krishna wants to give happiness to his pure devotees, the Vrajavasis, and for that sake he has manifested many Leelas and holy names. So now, if we want access to that happiness which Krishna wants to give to his pure devotees, the Vrajavasis, by manifesting his Leelas and his holy names, then those holy names and pastimes of Krishna have to be received by us from a person who is coming from that Goloka Vrindavan, who is a Vrajavasi. Unless one is a Vrajavasi, if one hears the pastimes of Krishna given in the Bhagavatam, and one hears Bhagavad-gita, and one chants Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by getting it from a person other than who is coming from the Goloka Vrindavan, who is descending from the Goloka Vrindavan, if the person from whom we are receiving it has not such a personality, then what happens is, we will not be able to relish that kind of sweetness of Krishna's holy name and pastimes, which is relished by the Vrajavasis. We may come in touch with the Sat and Chit aspects, and some amount of Ananda aspect up to the Vaikuntha Dhama. To that extent we may be able to relish. But the real full manifestation of Krishna's sweetness of his holy name and pastimes can take place in our heart only when we receive it from a person who has descended from that same Goloka Vrindavan. Otherwise, we will not have access to that. And that is why you will see all the personalities who are there in our Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, who have all spoken about the topmost position of the Gopis and of the Vrajavasis being higher than even Vaikuntha, are all personalities who have come from that Goloka Vrindavan. Because nobody else can give you that. You see, some years back, now of course things are changed, but in the olden times, I am saying early part of this 20th century, 21st century, or in 1980s, 90s and all that, whenever an electronic good would be released in the United States, suppose it's a new laptop or it's a new device, electronic device, whatever gets released in the United States, it would take about 1.5 to 2 years to come to India. And when it would come to India also, it would be exorbitantly priced because it's imported, customs duty, so many things add on. Whenever anything is released in the US, we would wait for 1.5 to 2 years for it to come. After that, for the price to fall, we will wait for another 1 or 2 years. Then only we will be able to buy. Some of us, what we would do is we would bypass this. We cannot wait for 3 years, 4 years and all that. Who will wait for such a long time? So what we will do, we will contact some person who is coming from the US to India. And we'll tell him, this new thing has got released, can you please buy it and bring for me? So he will buy it, and when he is coming, he will come and he will hand it over to us. So at the cost what it is available in the US, we would be able to get the item here. So you see, what is not available in this country, we can get it only if somebody coming from the country where it is available, he brings it from there and gives it to us. Now, of course, things have changed. Now, simultaneously, the product gets released. If you take the latest model of the iPhone or the iPad or whatever device you want, it gets released in the US also, India also simultaneously. Globalization. And the pricing is also not very different. So we are able to enjoy the benefits of that. But in the olden times, it was not like that. So the point is that what is not available in my place, but it's available in some other country, I can get it only if the person brings it from there and hands it over to me. Crude example to understand that. Similarly, the joy, the ananda, the full ananda of hearing the pastimes of Krishna and chanting the holy names of Krishna is actually available only in Goloka Vrindavan. Because originally Krishna has manifested his Leelas and his holy name for the pleasure of the Vrajavasis. Later on, he has expanded it even to other parts of Vaikuntha Loka and this material universe because Krishna is very merciful. That's a different matter. So originally it is available in its purest form in Goloka Vrindavan. And therefore, if we want to experience the full sweetness of Krishna's holy name and pastimes, then it is possible only when we receive it from a Vrajavasi who has descended to this material world. In our case, we are very fortunate. We have received the holy name Hare Krishna Mahamantra and the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gita and Chaitanya Charitamrita and all such transcendental literature from His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has descended from Goloka Vrindavan to give us those nectarian pastimes and holy names of Krishna. Therefore, when we chant Hare Krishna, when we chant our malas of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, we have to remember that this holy name is being brought from Goloka Vrindavan to here. Actually, this Hare Krishna Mahamantra is meant for chanting by the gopis. They chant the Hare Krishna mantra and experience bliss. It's for them. But Krishna is so merciful, He has sent it to this world to us conditioned souls who have no qualification to chant that Hare Krishna mantra, simply because of the mercy of Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, we have to understand the value of the Hare Krishna mantra. It is Golokera Premadhana. It is not Vaikuntera Premadhana. It is Golokera Premadhana. It is the treasure of the Vrajavasis in Goloka Vrindavan, the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Not an ordinary thing, extremely exalted position the Hare Krishna mantra has. And that Hare Krishna mantra, which is the treasure, which is the possession of the gopis in Goloka Vrindavan, we are also able to chant that Hare Krishna mantra. Only because of the great, unlimited, infinite compassion of one Vrajavasi, which is Srila Prabhupada. So therefore, we can never repay our debt to Srila Prabhupada, nor can we ever stop appreciating the great fortune that we have received in being able to chant the Hare Krishna mantra. And therefore, as we go on chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra, simply if we go on chanting Hare Krishna mantra with a proper consciousness, properly hearing it, soulfully we hear Hare Krishna mantra and do the japa, what will happen? It will transport, it will import that sweetness which is relished by the Vrajavasis into our hearts. And we will also be able to relish that sweetness of the pastimes of Krishna in the Bhagavatam and the holy name of Krishna, simply if we stick to Srila Prabhupada's lotus feet without any deviation. Little bit of deviation, finished. We will end up somewhere else. We will not get that sweetness of the which is characteristic of Goloka Vrindavan. We may get some chit, some sat, some little bit of ananda also will get, but not the sweet ananda which is experienced, Madhura ananda which is experienced in Goloka Vrindavan. If our goal is that, then strictly without any deviation we have to follow all of Srila Prabhupada's instructions. Sometimes this question comes to our mind. In the other camp of ISKCON, we have so many gurus, so-called gurus, self-appointed gurus. And they also are chanting Hare Krishna mantra, and they have many disciples and followers. They are also chanting Hare Krishna. They are also reading Bhagavatam. They are also reading Bhagavad-gita. They also accept Krishna as Supreme Person. So they are also progressing spiritually. So what is the big deal if they have deviated from Prabhupada's instruction, July 9th directive, that Srila Prabhupada is the sole Diksha Guru for ISKCON? So what is the problem? They are making devotees. They are also chanting and they are also reading Bhagavatam and getting the knowledge. The point is that they may understand, they may get some knowledge. That means they come in touch with the Chitta aspect. They may understand that I am not the body, I am spirit, soul, all these things. So the Sat and Chitta aspects will come. And some amount of Ananda will also be there. But unless you accept Prabhupada as your Guru and accept the holy name from him, that holy name and the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad-gita will not evoke that sweetness which is present in the hearts of the Vrajavasis. That can happen only when we receive the holy name and the Bhagavatam and the Bhagavad-gita from Prabhupada, not from anyone else. That is why Srila Prabhupada says, the holy name, although powerful in itself, when it is received from a pure devotee, Uttamadhikari, then it becomes even more powerful. How do we understand this? Hare Krishna mantra, if somebody takes a chance, if not on the order of Prabhupada, because some other guru in ISKCON told him, so he started chanting. Some benefit he will get. But if you do it on the order of Prabhupada, understanding that Prabhupada is my guru, and I am receiving the holy name from him, then you become eligible to taste the full nectarian ananda of the holy name and the pastimes of Krishna, which is descending from Goloka Vrindavan. Otherwise, you will not get it. And that is why Prabhupada specifically says that the holy name becomes more powerful when it is received from the lips of an Uttamadhikari, pure devotee. And that is why we have to be very, very careful in not deviating even a millimeter from Prabhupada's instructions. Otherwise, anybody can read all the literature about Bhagavad-gita, Bhagavatam, and gain some knowledge, and some amount of advancement in spiritual life will also happen. But if your goal is going back to Goloka Vrindavan, that is not possible unless you receive the message of Krishna's pastimes as well as the holy name of Krishna from a pure devotee who is a Vrajavasi, who has descended from there for the purpose of giving us the nectar of Krishna's holy name and Krishna's pastimes. And therefore, we have to become all the more determined. We have to appreciate Prabhupada's great kripa that he has brought us in the right place in his movement. Even within the Gaudiya Vaishnava Sampradaya, one can get misled by so many branches. But out of all the branches, coming to the proper branch, which is ISKCON, and even in that also coming to the right sub-branch, where you can accept the holy name and receive the pastimes of Krishna directly from Prabhupada, that is, unless we appreciate that, we cannot, we will not be able to really do justice to the to following the instructions of Srila Prabhupada. So these are all the internal things which we have to understand. And like we are seeing here, even the great emperors, simply by hearing about Hare Krishna Mahamantra, by chanting Hare Krishna Mantra and hearing Bhagavatam every day in the morning and evening, they were able to even rule over their kingdoms very peacefully and happily. So, for devotees to be able to relish that happiness, freedom from material miseries, and experience the bliss of the sweetness of Krishna's holy name and pastimes, we have to stick to the lotus feet of Srila Prabhupada and very sincerely follow his instructions. I'll stop here. If anybody has any question or comment, we can discuss. Yes, please.
As you mentioned, opposite camp. So they may be gurus, but they may be sincere students also who are seeking for real knowledge.
Yeah.
But
if they are sincere, they will come across Prabhupada's July 9 letter and switch over to our camp.
But gurus may teach in a different way so that they are sincere for that guru like that.
If they are really sincere, Krishna will bring them here. Just like many of us also, we were part of that other camp only. How we came here. So, we also came across the July 9 letter, we understood. Then we decided to follow Prabhupada strictly. That's how today we are here. So, anybody who is sincere, Krishna will guide them to Prabhupada's lotus feet. Doesn't matter where they come in touch with Krishna's message and Prabhupada. If they are sincere, they will land up here. That's how we have to understand. Okay. Anybody else? We'll stop here. Grantharaj Srimad-Bhagavatam ki jai. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitai Gaur Premanande Hari Hari Bol.